Hello! You're watching Movie Snapshot Scenes, and this is the summary of American Beauty. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. From the outside, everything looks perfect. The lawns are manicured, the homes are identical, the neighbors wave politely. In the small, neatly trimmed world of suburbia, Lester Burnham is just another face behind a white picket fence, a middle-aged man with a stable job, a lovely house, and a family. But Lester is dying inside. He's not sick. He's bored, stuck in a loop, trapped in a corporate cubicle where his ideas go unnoticed, where every day feels exactly like the one before. At home, things aren't much better. His wife, Carolyn, is a real estate agent obsessed with appearances and success. Their daughter, Jane, a quiet teenager, barely speaks to him anymore. And Lester? He's invisible. But something is about to change. The Burnhams attend a high school dance recital where Jane performs with her friend, Angela Hayes. It's there, in the glow of stage lights, that Lester sees Angela, not as his daughter's friend, but as a vision, a fantasy, a spark. The moment shocks him, jolts him out of his sleepwalking life. He's aware of how wrong it is. Angela is a teenager, but the attraction wakes something in him, a hunger, a need to feel alive again. It's not just lust, it's rebellion against mediocrity, against routine, against the dull hum of a life half-lived. At home, Jane grows distant. She sees the cracks in her family's polished surface. She sees her father staring at Angela. She sees her mother's forced smiles. And across the street, she sees Ricky Fitz, a strange boy with a video camera and a quiet intensity. Ricky films everything, a plastic bag dancing in the wind, a dead bird, Jane. He sees beauty in places others overlook. He sees Jane for who she is, not who she's pretending to be. And slowly, their eyes begin to meet. In a neighborhood built on surface-level perfection, something deeper begins to stir. Longing, frustration, desire. Everyone is watching everyone else. Everyone is hiding something. And behind the curtains of these perfect homes, the walls are starting to crack. Lester Burnham is about to change his life. He just doesn't know it yet. Lester Burnham is done sleepwalking. After years of passivity, he begins to stir, woken not just by desire for Angela, but by a dawning realization. He doesn't have to keep living a life that isn't his. Something has cracked open inside him, and from it spills defiance, recklessness, freedom. He starts small. He stops caring about his job. When he's threatened with termination, he blackmails his way into a year's salary and quits with a smirk. The man who once nodded politely now speaks with sarcasm, swagger, even joy. He buys himself a red 1970 Pontiac Firebird, a teenage fantasy on wheels. He starts working out, lifting weights in the garage, fantasizing about impressing Angela. He smokes pot, supplied by Ricky Fitz from across the street, and blasts classic rock like a man reclaiming lost time. Carolyn doesn't understand. She sees him changing and is terrified. Her carefully curated world, built on control and appearance, starts to tremble. At an open house event, she meets Buddy Kane, a slick, successful real estate mogul who sells confidence like it's bottled perfume. Carolyn, craving validation, begins an affair. Their marriage, already hollow, now rings with the echo of two people living separate lives under the same roof. Meanwhile, Jane is falling deeper into Ricky's world. He shows her the quiet beauty of things no one else notices. A plastic bag caught in the wind, floating like it has a soul. He films Jane when she isn't looking, not to possess her, but to see her. And for the first time, Jane feels visible. Ricky, however, lives under his own tyranny. His father, Colonel Frank Fitz, is a strict, emotionally repressed military man. Their home is silent, tense, lined with framed photos of order and discipline. Ricky survives by being invisible, obedient by day, free only in stolen moments behind his camera. Angela remains in Lester's fantasies, untouched but ever present. He imagines her covered in rose petals, radiant and smiling. It's not about sex, not completely. It's about feeling alive, desired, young again. The Burnham household is shifting. The masks are slipping. Behind every polite smile, the truth is beginning to seep through. Lester has started his rebellion, and there's no turning back. Everything is changing, but no one is saying it out loud. Lester Burnham has become a stranger in his own home. He works out shirtless in the garage, smokes pot openly, flips burgers at a fast food joint by choice. To Lester, it's liberation. To Carolyn, it's collapse. She clings tighter to her perfect image, her tidy home, her perfect sales smile, her affair with Buddy Kane, the king of real estate. She hides it well, or at least she thinks she does. Jane watches it all unravel. Her mother's cold perfection, her father's leering glances at Angela, the silence at dinner, heavy enough to crush. She retreats further into Ricky's world, into the camera lens that makes her feel like someone worth seeing. Ricky tells her he'd love her even if she were £1 million. She believes him. Their connection deepens. Two misfits in the middle of the American dream. Across the street, Ricky's world is far darker. Colonel Fitz watches his son closely. Every movement, every friendship. He believes discipline is love and emotion is weakness. He finds Ricky's videos, Jane sleeping, a dead bird, a homeless woman laughing, and calls them disgusting. But Ricky sees truth in those moments. Beauty. Angela, meanwhile, still craves attention. She mocks Jane's romance with Ricky. She flirts with Lester, dancing at dinner, soaking up the power of being wanted. But behind her confident smile is insecurity. Her stories of sexual adventures are just that, stories. Beneath the surface, Angela is as fragile as anyone else. Lester's fantasies grow bolder. He imagines Angela waiting for him. He rewinds moments in his head. Her voice, her smile, her skin. It becomes an obsession. A place where he's young, fearless, desired. A place where consequences don't exist, but consequences are coming. Everyone is watching someone else. Everyone is hiding. The Burnhams smile in public and scream in private. The Fitz family salutes flags while burying truth. And Angela, for all her teasing, begins to see something in Lester's eyes that unnerves her. Something hungry. Beneath the calm, the storm is forming, and no one is ready for what's coming. The walls are closing in. Carolyn Burnham is holding her perfect world together with clenched fists. She rehearses affirmations in her car. I will sell this house today. But the words feel hollow. Her affair with Buddy Kane begins to lose its charm. Beneath the confidence and polished charm, he's just another man who runs when things get messy. She's left holding the pieces. Again. At home, Lester is more alive than ever. He lifts weights, smokes weed, and flips burgers with pride. He fantasizes about Angela relentlessly, but it's more than desire now. It's nostalgia. A longing for youth, for freedom, for something real. He finds it in music, in pot smoke curling into the air, in the sound of his own laughter echoing through the empty kitchen. But his daughter wants nothing to do with him. Jane sees right through the performance. The more Lester becomes his true self, the more he disappears from her life. She spends all her time with Ricky now. Quiet nights watching the world through his lens, sharing secrets. She tells him about Lester and Angela, about how uncomfortable it makes her. Ricky watches and says nothing. He's seen worse. At home, Colonel Fitz grows more suspicious. He watches Lester through the window, sees Ricky talking to him, laughing with him, passing him what looks like drugs, misinterpreting it all. The Colonel begins to believe Lester is seducing his son. The tension in the Fitz household reaches a breaking point. Ricky is confronted violently, accused of being gay, of being a disgrace. In the heat of the moment, Ricky doesn't flinch. He smiles and leans in. You're right, Dad, he says. I'm everything you think I am. The Colonel, disgusted, throws him out. Ricky and Jane run away that night. Angela, meanwhile, remains in the middle, half child, half seductress. She wants to be seen, but not truly known. When Lester and she are finally alone, when the flirtation becomes real, something shifts. She reveals the truth. She's never done any of the things she's bragged about. She's a virgin. Lester stops. The fantasy breaks, and for the first time he sees her, not as a dream, but as a girl. He covers her, gently with a blanket, and in that moment, something in Lester finally grows up. It's a quiet night. The house is calm. The rain taps softly against the windows. Lester Burnham sits at the kitchen table, smiling. For the first time in years, he feels at peace. Not because of fantasy, but because of clarity. Angela, now upstairs showering, has fallen asleep on the couch. Their moment passed not in seduction, but in honesty. He saw her for who she was, a scared, insecure girl pretending to be confident. And for once, he didn't run from the truth. He made her a sandwich. He let her sleep. And in that small act of kindness, something in Lester shifted. Meanwhile, outside, Colonel Frank Fitz walks through the rain. Something inside him has cracked. Earlier, he confronted Lester, believing him to be in a relationship with Ricky, and, in a moment of desperation, kissed him. Lester, stunned, gently pushed him away. No cruelty, just truth. But the Colonel couldn't handle it. The rejection, the implication, the mirror being held up to his own suppressed self. He disappears into the night. Inside the house, Carolyn drives home with a loaded gun in her purse. Her affair with Buddy Kane has ended. Her image is crumbling. Her husband is unreachable. Her daughter is gone, and all her efforts to hold it together, to be strong, successful, perfect, are unraveling. Jane and Ricky, already gone, leave no note. They've escaped into the night, hand in hand, chasing a life beyond lawns and lies. And Lester, he looks through an old photo album. Pictures of Jane as a child, his wife when they were young and still in love, himself, once full of potential. He smiles, not with regret, but with acceptance. In the final moments, the camera lingers. Lester looks up. Someone has entered the room. We don't see who. There's a flash, a loud bang, and then silence. Blood paints the wall behind him. His smile frozen in peace. Lester Burnham, husband, father, dreamer, disappointment, is dead. But in his final moment, he was awake. The next morning, the calm of the suburbs is broken. News spreads quickly. Lester Burnham has been murdered. The image of his lifeless body at the kitchen table sends quiet ripples through the neighborhood. Though no one says much out loud, in a place where appearances rule, grief wears a polite mask. Angela, shaken and confused, is the first to speak to the police. She can't explain what happened. She only knows that he was kind to her, that he didn't do what she thought he might, that he just listened. Carolyn returns home to yellow tape and flashing lights. She stands in their bedroom, her face unreadable, holding the gun she never used. She breaks down, alone among the designer furniture and color-coded closets, mourning not just Lester, but the illusion of the life she tried so hard to perfect. In another house across the street, Colonel Fitz sits in silence. No one knows yet that he was the one who pulled the trigger. That in a moment of shame, fear, and rage, he projected everything he hated about himself onto Lester and ended his life. He hides it well. Meanwhile, Jane and Ricky, already gone, drive down an empty road, unaware of what has happened. But in Ricky's camera bag is the footage of the last time he saw Lester. A few words, a brief connection, enough to remember him not as a joke or a failure, but as someone who had begun to see beauty again, because that's what Lester saw in the end. Beauty. In a world of plastic smiles and quiet desperation, he had finally started to notice the small things, the feel of rain, the curve of a smile, the simple joy of breathing. In voiceover, Lester speaks from beyond. It's hard to stay mad when there's so much beauty in the world. Sometimes I feel like I'm seeing it all at once, and it's too much, but it passes. And I remember to relax, and stop trying to hold on. And then it flows through me like rain. Death came quietly, but clarity came louder. And in those final seconds, Lester, Burnham didn't feel fear, he felt grateful. Time moves on. The neighborhood returns to its routines. Lawns are trimmed, porches are swept. Cars pull out of driveways at the same precise hour each morning. From the outside, nothing seems different. But beneath the surface, something has shifted. Carolyn sits alone in the Burnham house, dressed in black, surrounded by silence. She goes through Lester's belongings, his clothes, his music, the receipts from the life they built together. She finds a photo of them from years ago, smiling in the early days of their marriage. She holds it to her chest and quietly weeps. Not just for him, but for the years lost between who they were and who they became. Jane and Ricky begin a new chapter far from the pristine sidewalks of suburbia. They've escaped the world that tried to define them. They don't know what lies ahead, but they move forward together, with eyes wide open and hearts no longer afraid of being seen. Back at the house where it all began, the wind picks up. A red rose petal falls, then another, and another. A storm of beauty that has nothing to do with perfection and everything to do with being alive. Over it all, Lester's voice returns, calm, clear, no longer bitter, but full of wonder. I guess I could be pretty pissed off about what happened to me, but it's hard to stay mad when there's so much beauty in the world. He talks about the little things, the smell of his grandmother's kitchen, the way Jane looked when she was born, the way Carolyn once laughed before everything got so heavy. Moments that didn't seem important at the time, but now, they are everything. That was the lesson. In a world obsessed with appearances, with control, with having more, Lester finally found peace in less, in stillness, in simply noticing, in being. His life wasn't perfect. It wasn't long, but in the end, it was his. And for a few precious moments, it was beautiful.